Hey everyone, welcome back. We all crave knowledge, right? Like we want to understand things quickly but deeply. And that's what we're all about here, taking these dense, complex topics and extracting the pure gold, the real insights.
And today's deep dive is especially interesting. We're exploring this book, AshtaLakshmi, The Path to India's Greatness. I mean, the title itself grabs your attention,
It
right?
really does. And it's about so much more than just, the surface level economic stuff. This book is about India's potential in this decade. Like right now, this very moment is crucial, according to the author.
It's presented as this kind of fork in the road, a defining period for India.
Exactly. It lays out two very distinct paths. One leads to India becoming this, well, the author calls it a $5 trillion economy, a major player on the world stage, having a real say in global affairs, real prosperity. The other,
Not so bright. It's almost like becoming a support system for the world, answering to other powers, not really setting its own agenda.
and the author is adamant that it's India's choices that will determine which path it takes.
Yeah, that's the powerful part. It's not destiny, it's agency. India has the power to shape its future. And to illustrate this, the author uses this amazing metaphor, the AshtaLakshmi stotram.
Okay, so many listeners might know Lakshmi as the goddess of wealth in Hinduism. But, and this is what I found so interesting, the author digs deeper, explaining that Lakshmi actually comes from the Sanskrit word lach, meaning aim or goal.
So it's not just about wealth, it's about aspirations. It's about achieving what you set out to do as an individual and as a nation.
And the author uses these 8 different manifestations of Lakshmi, the AshtaLakshmi, to lay out this framework for national greatness. It's pretty brilliant.
So let's dive into this crossroads, these two paths. On one hand, you have India as a global powerhouse, economically strong, respected internationally, a real voice at the table, not just a seat.
But the alternative, the author paints a picture of India getting stuck, sort of becoming this, I guess you could say a service provider to the world, not really fulfilling its true potential.
And the author really stresses how crucial national identity and sovereignty are in all of this. The argument is that internal divisions, whether it's caste, creed, or religion, weaken India's ability to project a unified front globally.
Yeah, and the author suggests that, these divisions have been, to some extent, exploited for political gains over the years. But what's interesting is that the book also points out the simultaneous rise of nationalistic sentiment across India.
So there's this potential for unity there.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of unity and national pride, the author makes an interesting comparison with China.
Go on.
The book highlights how China has really cultivated this sense of national pride, reverence for their heritage, and this, I guess you could say, a very assertive approach to their role in the world. They've got this winning mindset, the author says.
It's interesting because the author isn't saying India should become China, right? But it's more about recognizing that strong sense of national purpose, that belief in your own capabilities. It can be a powerful driver.
And there's this thought-provoking point the author makes about the post-independence generation in India. Those who didn't directly experience the struggle for freedom.
Like they haven't lived through those defining moments that shape national identity.
Yeah. The author worries about a potential disconnect from India's history, its ancient civilization, and maybe even a tendency to look for validation from the West instead of recognizing our own inherent worth.
Right. Right. It's like sometimes we're seeking approval from outside instead of believing in ourselves. And this ties into something else the book talks about, soft power.
Yeah, soft power. The author argues that India has tons of it, its culture, its philosophical traditions, its spirituality. But we need to get better at, well, leveraging it strategically on the global stage.
Like the U.S. is given as an example of a country that knows how to use its soft power effectively. But where does India go from here? The book offers some solutions, and this is where it gets really fascinating.
It all comes back to that metaphor we discussed, the wisdom of AshtaLakshmi. It's about looking inwards, to India's roots, for answers and guidance.
The author presents these 8 forms of Lakshmi as keys to national success. It's this holistic framework that covers everything from economics to, well, character building. So let's go through them one by one, starting with Adi Lakshmi.
Adi means, well, it's like primordial or eternal. It's the source, the beginning.
Okay, so how does this relate to national greatness?
The author connects it to the idea of a perpetually flowing economy. It's about long-term wealth creation, not just chasing quick gains.
It's about building a solid foundation for lasting prosperity. And this idea of a shared origin, it connects to national unity, right?
Exactly. The author argues that when citizens recognize their common source, their shared identity, it strengthens the nation. It leads to this sense of collective responsibility, a focus on global well-being.
And practically speaking, the author suggests policies that recognize and support wealth creators, encouraging innovation and entrepreneurship.
And there's this idea of moving away from dependence on subsidies towards empowering individuals to become self-reliant.
Okay, so next is Lakshmi. She's the giver of agricultural wealth. Think bountiful harvests, food security. This seems especially important for India.
Absolutely. The book stresses the need to optimize agricultural practices to ensure plentiful yields, and also building resilience against things like natural disasters that can disrupt food supply.
I mean, with India's huge agricultural population, achieving food self-sufficiency feels like a cornerstone of national strength.
No doubt. And the author gets pretty specific. The book suggests things like better water management, integrating new technologies in farming, improving storage and processing, reducing harmful pesticides. There's even talk of promoting indigenous crop varieties and exploring things like hydroponics and vertical farming. What is your thoughts on all this?
Well, I'm struck by this emphasis on both embracing modern technology and looking back to traditional sustainable practices. The book even mentions the growing global trend of organic food, and India, with its history of natural farming, could really be a leader there.
And there's this crucial link between rural prosperity and the strain on our cities. Making agriculture appealing to young people is essential for the future. Now, the next one is Lakshmi, often translated as patience. But the author gives it a much deeper meaning.
It's not just sitting around waiting, is it? It's more about having a calm mind, thinking strategically, both for the short term and long term.
Exactly. It's about strong leadership and resilience in the face of challenges. The author argues that this quality, this Darya, is crucial not just for individuals, but for India as a whole. Especially as its global influence grows, it's essential for navigating international relations, overcoming stepbacks without losing sight of the big picture.
Okay, then we have Sri Lakshmi. It's got this fascinating origin story about restoring wealth and prosperity. The author links this to royal power, abundance, and specifically to building a strong military. What's the takeaway here for India?
Well, the core message is that India, while not an aggressor historically, needs to be able to defend itself effectively. The author stresses a strong, decisive response to any threats.
And to achieve that, the book argues for developing our own capabilities in military hardware.
Right, moving away from being a major importer of arms. The author even questions India's traditional non-alignment stance, given the current geopolitical situation in Asia. The argument is that India needs to be strong across all domains, not just conventional military, but also space, cyber, finance, information warfare.
It's about being prepared for any eventuality. The author also emphasizes the need for citizens to be discerning, to be wary of propaganda that tries to exploit social divisions. Now let's talk about Santan Lakshmi, literally offspring.
Right. The author is very clear. A nation without a future generation has no future. It's about carrying forward the legacy. But it's not just about having children.
It's broader than that, right?
Yeah, the author talks about strong communities, positive relationships, building goodwill through acts of compassion, like the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world as one family.
And this connects to India's history of providing aid during disasters, helping those in need. It all contributes to India's global image.
Absolutely. And of course, the book emphasizes the importance of instilling the right values in children so they become responsible citizens. The author even suggests that a balance between strength and compassion, think Sri Lakshmi and Santan Lakshmi together, makes for a well-rounded national character.
Okay, on to Lakshmi, victory. This one is interesting.
The author argues that the biggest obstacle to achieving victory in any aspect of life is our own mind.
It's about winning that internal battle first.
Exactly. The author says India and its people need to overcome those mental hurdles, including anything lingering from colonization. We need to respect our own heritage, our capabilities, without constantly seeking validation from the West.
And this doesn't mean rejecting everything Western. It's about developing discernment, expecting equal treatment on the world stage. Now we've got Lakshmi, knowledge. What does the author have to say about this one?
It's about achieving mastery, whether it's in knowledge, arts, or sciences. And ultimately, it's about using that mastery to benefit humanity. The book even lists 18 specific skills associated with Vidya, things like serenity, sincerity, humility. It's not just intellectual knowledge, it's about character.
So it's this holistic approach to learning, to becoming well-rounded individuals.
Yeah, and the author really stresses investing in science, technology, medicine, aiming to be among the best in the world. And in a democracy, it's each citizen's responsibility to reach their full potential. Finally, we have Sri Lakshmi, material wealth.
This is the one most people probably think of when they hear Lakshmi, right?
Yeah, it's about wealth in the traditional sense,
Hmm.
gold, currency, but it also includes natural resources. The author points out that India is incredibly rich in resources. The key is to utilize them effectively to improve everyone's quality of life.
And the book makes a point about maximizing our geographical advantages, things like our location and control of trade routes. The author even questions why India's GDP isn't higher, given these strengths.
And there's a section on national security, being firm against those who threaten India's progress, emphasizing the value of every life. So to wrap things up, the author really emphasizes the wisdom in these ancient concepts, these AshtaLakshmi.
It's about applying them to the modern world, to achieving national greatness in the 21st century.
The author believes India has immense potential, and it's about overcoming those mental barriers, honing our skills. This decade is crucial.
The author even references PM Modi's analogy of Northeast India as the AshtaLakshmi, contributing to national GDP, and then expands that vision to India becoming the world's AshtaLakshmi. It's a fascinating perspective. So for our listeners, here's a final thought. Of these 8 principles, Adi, Danya, Darya, Sri Gaja, Santan, Vijay, Vidya, Sri Lakshmi, which one do you think is the most crucial for India's success in this decade? And how can you, as an individual, contribute to that?
It's something to really ponder, maybe even explore the book further and see what resonates with you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope this sparks some interesting thoughts and encourages you to keep learning, keep exploring different perspectives.